billion loan from BPF, no question about it. Yeah. But that's not backed by the government. So Felda is supposed to pay if they can't pay. They do have a lot of assets, so there's no question that Felda is an asset-rich company. But they are increasing their leverage at a very rapid pace, and you're asking why do they need to increase their loans by so much? And they have invested a fair bit overseas. Some of their overseas ventures have gone sour. That's the bit that wasn't reported. To be frank, Felda is a subject that I want to go into in more detail. I know some of PKLTs did a bit of work there. They made some errors here and there, but I know there are nonsense in there. I want to go into a bit of detail in Felda, but I have not had the time to do it. There have always been other issues coming about. I've been keeping all the annual reports of Felda, and I can only promise that I will look into this Felda thing at some relevant time, especially when Felda is planning for a listing in the market next year. Thank you. Filling the forms and running away. And I think some of you may have already filled forms here.
He's referring to the government official.
I will take the first question and the last question. Basically, is roughly the same actions that we will take, and whether we will write off illegitimate debt. Now, what we will have to do, and to be fair, I don't actually speak on behalf of whole Pakatan, but I will definitely exert my influence over it, is that a lot of these bailouts are unnecessary. The biggest example is PKF. No, we have already given plenty of evidence and protracted, and I think I wrote it extensively in my book, 2 whole chapters on PKFZ, that KDSB, okay, Kuala Dimensi, who is the main contractor for the job. In summary, what happens, KDSB took loan, okay, of 3.6 billion to finance its project in PKMZ. For them to finance 3.6 billion, they got no money. They were in debt, they were in trouble. And all these are not definitely because it's all presented in the Auditor General's report. They were in trouble. They were $500 million in debt. Okay? So what? They got this job. This job was like a godsend, but they can't raise the money to do the work. So what do? They ask the minister, can you help? Write us a letter of support. So the ministers wrote 3 letters of support. Both these ministers are in court today, although not over this letter of support, apparently over cheating the prime ministers, and the prime minister is so easy to cheat like that. Wrote these 2 letters of support, which allowed KDB to raise 3.6 billion, if I don't recall wrongly, okay, in bonds. Now the problem is, who pays for these bonds? The government is supposed to pay as the jobs gets completed. No? So we pay, but we don't pay KDSB, we pay directly to the bankers on behalf of KDSB. Okay, because they wrote. Now, the problem comes when we found that KDSB claimed hundreds of millions or even billions. The suit is 1.6 billion. Work claimed, not done. Okay? They said this place got this electricity generator, 34 kilowatt or kV, there, kilovolt, kV. You go to the site, it's not there. Hundreds of millions. Not one, but a couple. And of course, short-changing in certain other aspects. They will build something so big, they build something smaller, etc., etc. Okay, PKA, Portland Authority, have under the Huaping style initiated a suit against KDSB, 1.8 billion. Now, given that the work is not done, should we still pay? No. Now, if we don't pay, would the lenders come and look for us or look for KDSB? They'll look for us first. We will tell them why we are not paying. Okay? Then they have to look for KDSB. Okay? But KDSB we know cannot pay. Who owns KDSB? Our BN Ventures chairperson. Dato Sri Tiong Keng Seng. You know? So every day you see him and the minister, finance minister, making them pay. And the government pay. Why should we pay? We have gone through the bond contracts. The financiers can take all necessary action against KDSB. But our government said, oh no, cannot. If we don't pay, we will be not, not honoring our letters of support. Okay? Or if we don't pay, then the bond market will go into a crisis because there will be a default. This is one. Number two, this is 3.6 billion. Number two, water. You all know water in Selangor, big issue. 4 water companies, total debt 6.5 billion ringgit. They now cannot service their debt. Actually, they still can service the debt. They cannot meet certain obligations. Because although you only pay interest every year, you are supposed to set aside a certain amount of money every year also to repay capital. Not a lot, but set aside. Our 4 companies can't even afford to set aside this amount of money. So a default was coming up early this year. And what happened? When this happened, Selangor government offered to take them over. We even take over your debt. Settle your problem. We also win for the rakyat because we don't have to increase the tariff by 37%. Okay? All we need is the federal government to say, hey, please, you have a concession, you can't pay your debt, go cooperate with the state government. That's all the federal government need to say. They didn't. What did they do? They took over the debt. 6.5 billion taken over in April this year. Okay, and that's not reflected in my contingent liability list yet. This is for 2010. All the 2011 ones haven't gone in yet. Okay, 6.5 billion taken. And then the restructuring, not done yet. So these companies can take their time to pay this 6.5 billion, no default. Now, if I'm these companies, no default, would they still want to talk to Selangor state government? Of course, I'm making good money, I don't have to pay my debt, don't have to fulfill my debt obligations, I will continue and make my money. This is what's happening for 6.5 billion. So if you're asking me whether these illegitimate ones, we won't pay, of course we will. These are your shareholders' debt. In fact, we have given them a lot of space in offering to take over their debt. Because in the concession agreement, which is OSA, in the concession agreement, okay, it is very clearly stated, we just need to pay them for their capital invested, okay, a 12% interest per annum of operation on top of that, less dividends. Means what? Whatever you invested, we pay you, then we make sure every year you get at least 12% returns. Very fair, 12% returns on your investment. Subsequent years, no need to pay. We don't have to pay for future profits. Okay, we take over your asset. So at least as a concessionaire, you have gotten 12% return every year, even though we cut short the concession. It doesn't say anything about taking over their debt. It does not say anything about taking over their debt. Why should we take over your debt? It's a bit like I bought a house from you for 1 million. Then I go to the bank and say I want to borrow 2 million on the house. Now when I come back and want to buy back the house from you, okay, your house is still on the market worth 1 million. Do I pay you 1 million or do I pay you 2 million? 1 million. Your extra million, your own problem. You go and sort it out yourself. The shareholders have to pay for it. But no, in this country, not only the shareholders don't have to pay for it, the state government offer to buy also cannot. Offer to take over, so we're very generous in our offer already. Still cannot. Still refuse to sell to us. Okay, so this is the system that we have where the government actually bears the cost of a lot of this. These are not even contingent liability companies, these are wholly private companies. Okay, out there. The only companies, you know, I'll call it that way. Okay, that's number one. I have the top 17 GLCs in the stock exchange. These are the only ones we can get easy data with. Those not in stock exchange are smaller, but we don't have the data. Actually, the biggest one that's not in stock exchange is Petronas itself. And Petronas itself, the debt is got debt, but not very high, so it's quite manageable. Total 38.6 billion. Correct. 38.6 billion. The biggest being Tenaga, 13.6 billion, plus 8.5, and MISC, Malaysia Shipping. Okay, Malaysian Shipping Corporation, 4.8, and Sandabi, 3 billion. These numbers are as at October last year. I didn't update the figures. It was 1 year ago. Okay, so that's the debt in GLCs, and debt in GLCs are not included here yet. Okay, they are separate debt. Okay, although some of it may overlap in the contingent liability, like Tenaga, chances are some of the debt are backed by government guarantee. EPF money. They are being loaned to a lot of companies. A lot of them are GLCs. So a lot of this debt are actually financed by EPF. Again, it is an annual report that I really want to go in and read in detail to see if there are any things in there. But the common way of describing EPF, the fear at least, okay, is that it's a giant Ponzi scheme.
It is.
Okay, why is a giant Ponzi scheme? You are paying, contributors are paying every year, but what you are paying is used to pay out dividends. But the whole inside is getting bigger and bigger. That is the fear. Okay, I must say I don't have the way I like to do things is I don't allege first. Like I try to find all the data to back up first, then I make the allegations. So I don't have the hard data to back it up yet. Okay, I need to do my research on the EPF, but that's the fear of EPF. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. You just keep contributing, you get your returns every year, okay, but actually the returns are coming from declining principal stock within the EPF. And sometimes that's why you're a bit suspicious. When retirement, they don't encourage you to take out all your money. They want you to take it out bit by bit. Hopefully you die first, you know. Military spending, one of my favorite topics. Before I go on, I just want to have a quick idea. Who have heard me tell stories about the ships, the naval patrol vessels, and the APCs, armored personnel carriers? 1, 2. Also, I can tell the story. The rest will have heard, bear with me. Now, first thing first, before I go on to the 2 stories. Number 1, the expenditure for military this year, development expenditure, has continued to increase. So you saw just now in my budget, right? I showed that the development expenditure, okay, for 2011, 2012 has actually remained the same, even though our budget increased by a lot. Okay, now it remained the same, not for every sector. So some sectors increase, some sectors decline in development expenditure. The sectors that decline for development expenditure is number 1, education. Number 2, health. Number 3, housing. Okay. The one that increased, defense.
Crazy.
Okay, the one that increased, defense. Okay, but all not a lot lah. I mean, they decline and then some increase. But the fact is, overall, it actually maintained. And what they did was they actually increased defense instead of increasing all the rest and cutting down on defense.